Yesterday, May 24, 2025, several newspapers carried the report of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, threatening to embark on another strike. The last one, to refresh our memories, was in 2022. And now threatening another strike, as quoted coming from the president, Professor Chris Piwanu Goson, saying that government has been unresponsive to the demands of ASUU, bordering on welfare of ASUU and the university system. It is high time Nigerians questioned the unreasonable approach of the leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, ASUU. Why is it that only ASUU embarks on prolonged strikes, some lasting up to 6 months, 7.5 months, if not 8 months in a year? Well, from time to time, 2020, 2022, another one will have happened. But because of the shock that ASUU got from the presidency of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, from the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari, who slammed no work, no pay on ASUU. And of course, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has, along the line, increased ASUU members' salaries, like other tertiary institutions, by 25/35% increments for different categories of federal universities workers, academic and non-academic, tertiary institutions, including the universities. But that means for ASUU and the non-academic unions of Nigerian universities, increment on 2009 salary scales, whereas the other tertiary academic institutions, colleges of education and polytechnics, have been having regular increments of salaries as due. The only difference is that rather than increment of salaries, ASUU leadership has been ending every strike with getting a bribe called End Academic Allowance. Purportedly, allowances earned by ASUU members, because it's called Earned Academic Allowance. But you will know that it is not Earned Academic Allowance, because it is shared with the non-academic unions, who ought to have their own earned allowances, because they also do overwork. So it's a bribe, and unfortunately, ASUU is unashamed of it. The other workers' unions leaders are not ashamed of it. Why? Because it is a collusion, a conspiracy between government and ASUU leadership, sold to the non-academic unions of the universities. because for the leaders, the so-called end academic allowance brings millions of naira, while pittance is given to the members. Since it is not allowances calculated for members, but a bribe given by government to make government escape, evade increment of salaries for members, for the selfish interest of the leaders of the unions, headed, in fact, championed by the leadership of ASUU. Now, ASUU is threatening another strike. There is no other way to strike where government refuses to fulfill its obligation to ASUU members. But ASUU leadership has lost the vision of what a workers' union should be. ASUU leadership has expanded the scope of its responsibility by including fighting for the rights of the university system. A university system does not belong to ASUU alone. ASUU is not the only stakeholder in the university system. So you lose your focus and you are destabilizing the university system because of losing focus. You have a purpose. The purpose is welfare of your members. You say no, you have to take care of the university system. And so each time you don't go to strike for a particular thing, but for many things, leading to impossibility for the government to meet your demands in good time, and so prolonged to many months. Okay, this time around, if you read the papers, including Punch of yesterday and some others, you will read that the president of ASUU, Chris Piwano, goes on, listed 9 things that ASUU is asking from government in one fell swoop. And that is the usual approach of ASUU leadership. 9 things in a single strike. I give you 5 of them. All of them capital intensive, being demanded by ASUU. Brain. Where is brain? From secondary school, we learned about, in economics, about scale of preference, that there are so many demands in life. So you cannot meet all the demands. So you have to have a scale of preference. What is ASUU's scale of preference? 9 things in this, and that's the usual case. So now I give you 5 of the 8 of the 9 that are capital intensive. Implementation of the 2009 renegotiated agreement, which borders on welfare of ASUU members and increment of salaries, due since 2013, but relegated for fraudulent and academic allowance, with which ASUU leadership has been ending every strike since 2013 till date, and is still on the list of what ASUU leadership is asking for. So you want government to attend to welfare of members, including increment of salaries. Look at that. Is that singular demand not enough for government to face and tackle? No, you add fraudulent and academic allowance running into billions of naira. Government is offering you 50 billion. You say no, it's not 50 billion. Did you say 120 billion? So in addition to welfare and increment of salaries. 2. So 2009 renegotiated agreement is there for welfare and increment of salaries. 2, fraudulent earned academic allowance, billions of naira. That is not even earned academic allowance but a bribe. 3, the withheld salaries arising from the 2022 strike of 7.5 months. 7.5 months in a year. So that too will run into billions. In the fourth instance, revitalization funds for the universities, 150 billion. In the fifth place, as usual, visitation panels to the universities, another huge budget from government. These are not illegal demands, but what is the purpose of ASUU? What is the priority of ASUU? As far as the universities workers are concerned, they have been weeping for one thing since 2013, and ASUU leadership, because of selfish interests, because of the millions of because they become automatic multimillionaire each time the so-called end academic allowance is given by government to ASUU leaders and other unions leaders to share to their members, and which they share lopsidedly, since it was never calculated for anybody. Because of that, ASUU has been ending every strike with getting end academic allowance, while shedding crocodile tears, hypocritical protest on the 2009 agreement. That's the first of the case. But now, 5 things, capital intensive. You expect government to do it at the same time when you are not the only responsibility of government. Within the academic alone, you have other tertiary academic institutions outside of yourself, and that is just academic. You have not gone to other ministries of government, agencies of government, not to talk of infrastructural development. So what's your priority? If only ASUU members came to realize that colleges of education and polytechnics started earning higher salaries than university teachers, or you call them lecturers, because they have been going for regular increment of salaries, while ASUU leadership has replaced regular increment of salaries with getting fraudulent earned academic allowance, a bribe willingly given by government, of course not without going on strike, to replace increment of salaries. And ASUU leadership are satisfied with that until another 2 years, when they are looking for becoming automatic multimillionaire again. So, and you are calling this, and this is an academic union leadership, the apex academic union leadership, lost the vision of what a workers' union should be, and arrogating to itself responsibility for the university system, and prioritizing it above the rights and entitlements of its members, and degenerating to unilaterally amending the constitution to be extorting a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary monthly, even while insisting that welfare of ASUU members is not the overarching priority of ASUU, but a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary monthly, and getting their allowances in their names. in conspiracy with government. I don't know whether any workers union members can be more miserable than ASUU members, with a leadership extorting a percentage of each member's monthly salary monthly from 2% in 2012 to 3% in 2024. And government is cooperating, university administrators are cooperating with the fraud. That is the dilemma of our country. That is the dilemma of ASUU members and the federal universities workers, academic and non-academic. Why is government increasing the salaries of colleges of education and polytechnics regularly and not that of federal universities? Because they have focus. That does not stop them from mentioning other things, but they have priority. What is the priority of ASUU? 5 things. 2009 agreement, withheld salaries, end academic allowance, revitalization funds, visitation panels. That is 5, and 4 other things that government must do before ASUU can suspend strike. But you come to realize that government will not do more than 1 or 2, and one of the 2 must be end academic allowance for ASUU leadership to suspend strike. So, and now ASUU leadership and its sympathizers will begin to heap all the blame on government. Yes, government has its own blame. It colluded with ASUU leadership to be paying fraudulent end academic allowance, which they all know is not end academic allowance, but bribe. And also to be using that to stall increment of salaries while telling lies about memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement, memorandum of whatever, deceiving ASUU members and the general public. ASUU leadership is the problem number 1 because it's the one paid by ASUU members to lead. Members taking from among them to lead fellow workers on monthly salaries, but now extorting a percentage of each ASUU member's monthly salary and sitting on the allowances and increment of salaries. And everybody is just behaving as if nothing is happening. Even you, the press people, even you, human rights activists. So, what are you talking about? Brain drain. Oh my God. So you want your child to go and work where they will be extorting a percentage of his salary, sitting on his allowances, sitting on increment of salary by ASUU leadership.